Airbnb is garbage. Actually, it doesn't really garbage, but there are some downsides to Airbnb right now. So I want to get right into them and show you what they are. Let's go. So one of the big things with Airbnb right now is that there's just an abundance. There's an oversupply, a saturated market in Airbnb. So what does that mean for you? So if you are someone that's been looking for an Airbnb, or maybe you even have an Airbnb for yourself, you might have noticed how your numbers have come down significantly over the last year, 2 years. Well, a big reason for that is the number of people who are getting into the market specifically to do Airbnb. Now, the reason why that becomes really challenging for the investors and looking to make some money is that now you have to make sure you make enough money just to cover all of your debt service. So the debt service is all the money that's owed on your property. That's your taxes and your mortgage and your water and all those goodies that you have to pay every single, well, not every single month, but total to what you end up paying within a month. You do need to make sure you account for those so that when you do have your Airbnb rentals and your listing and all the overhead associated with it, especially when it comes to cleaning, you're going to need to be able to cover enough money with what you get on the income wise versus what you're paying on the debt side. Now, it's going to be really important to keep in mind that all these Airbnbs that are out there on the market, they're all going to be contributing to how much money you're not getting, because they're essentially taking the money that could go to your pocket and maybe 3 others and distributing it across 10, 15 pockets. Now, there are a lot of regulations that are out there that are really limiting the number of Airbnbs that you find in a specific area, but you also have to think about the downsides of what people are doing to try to push Airbnb out of their neighborhood. Regardless of the fact, there are still an overabundance right now, and it's greatly affecting the Airbnb market and how much money you keep in your pocket. Another thing that would be really important right now when it comes to Airbnb is what it's going to cost you for having bad tenants. Now, the reason why I say that is because I've brought up in other videos before that when you have rental properties, things are naturally going to get beaten up. It is what it is. There's normal wear and tear. We have them in our own houses. It's not just the renters all trying to like screw you over and do mischievous activities in your properties. This is just general wear and tear. It's going to happen. Add on top of that the fact that when you do have an Airbnb, generally, you get a lot of people who want to party and people who want to just let loose. They may not even necessarily look at me do anything malicious, but shit happens when people have alcohol and they're tied together with hating their job and their boss sucks and they're now on vacation and they're just looking to let loose. Well, the problem is they let loose in your house. And when they let loose in your house, that's a cost that you're going to now have to pay because stuff's going to get broken. Things are going to get messed up. Carpet's going to get ripped, stains are going to happen on your sofas, counters are going to get damaged, glasses and dishes are going to break. It is what it is. This is the nature of having an Airbnb. And you know what? No one's feeling bad for you because you are still the investor that is just lining their pockets with money while everybody else is suffering. At least that's what the perception is in the market. So don't expect, even though someone's staying in your property, that they're going to take care of the thing that is broken or even care that they broke it. And that's going to be something that you have to accept because this is just the nature of the people who are going to be staying in your properties and the nature of renting out. When people know that you're an investor or property owner and they think that you just have more money than they have challenges. So as a result, things are going to get broken, whether they care or not. It's going to be something that you need to take care of. And you always need to make sure you take an account for all the things that are going to happen to your property when you're not around. And the people who do spend time in it are the ones breaking it. Here's another one that's gonna is when it comes to the overhead that you're spending on your property just to be able to make it through the month. God, this one sucks because this is one that I feel that I'm constantly having to battle with. I'm constantly having to fight with. The amount of money that I'm spending in cleaning, the amount of money that I'm spending in mortgage, the amount of money I'm spending in water and electricity and issues that get broken and in taxes and in insurance. I could just keep going. The numbers just keep going up. And the problem with it, when you have that oversupply and you've got all the bad tenants, now your numbers come down. So as opposed to hoping that you are profitable by like $500, $600 a month, now instead you're now using that money and you're now having to cover those added costs that are associated with your property. Now the general overhead, regardless of if you had bad tenants or not, are going to be high. So some of those things being, which I just mentioned, the cleaning fee, right? So the more people you book, the more times the cleaning fee is going to need to be paid. Some people get really disgruntled when they find out that they have to cover the cost of the cleaning fee. And the reason why we pass that cleaning fee cost on to the consumers or onto the renters is because what it takes to manage that property is really high. Add taxes, add how much money Airbnb is going to put into, are going to want from it. Add Uncle Sam, the cut that they're going to want. Add the city, add the county. Everyone's going to have their hand out wanting a piece of your pie. So you really have to make sure you take that into account. So, and all those are your overall, all of those are your overhead costs that you're gonna need to make sure that you cover. So something you really need to take into account and really think about before you buy your Airbnb, what area is it in and how much money are you gonna be spending just to be able to offset that cost. So another really big point when it comes to real estate in general is location. So where is your Airbnb located? Are you in an A-class neighborhood? That's all like the white picket fences and the beautiful lawns. That's your A-class. Then you have B-class and C-class, right? C-class is kind of rough around the edges a little bit. It's nice enough to walk in the daytime. At night, you feel a little sketchy. That's like your C-class neighborhood. And then you have other classifications as well, but for the all intents and purposes, you do not want to go anything below a C-class neighborhood because you're already kind of at the bottom. And the A-class is going to have a premium associated with it because you got to pay to play. And it costs money to live and be able to afford rent and mortgage in the places that are really expensive. So when you guys are looking at where your Airbnb is going to be located, make sure you're looking at how much it's going to cost you for each one of the neighborhoods that that property is located in. I can tell you for sure that A-class neighborhoods are way easier to rent than the C-class neighborhoods. The C-class neighborhoods might actually have better numbers than the A-class neighborhoods. So maybe you won't have an easy time renting out the property, but the numbers that you make on the C-class might actually be better than they would on the A-class because the cost of the debt service, taxes, mortgage, interest, is lower here. And the amount of money that you make in rent could actually cover for that so that what's left over, that profit, is more money in your pocket. But when it comes to the oversupply, like we mentioned before, when it comes to the bad tenants that you might be attracting in this neighborhood versus this one, these are all factors that you're going to need to take into account when looking at Airbnb. And I can tell you for sure that if you guys are going down this road and going down this path, depending on the neighborhood that you select is going to have a great deal with how much money you have as far as your bottom line. So be sure to take that into account when you're looking at where you're going to buy your next Airbnb. And the last thing I want to go over for today's episode are some alternatives. Now, I did mention that Airbnb, I do think is not a very good class to get into right now because there are just a lot of issues associated with it, not just with the overhead, not just with the kind of tenants that you have, but also just a lot of the regulations that are coming out in regards to Airbnb, what's being allowed, what neighbors want, what neighbors don't want. And Airbnb just kind of get wraps up into all that. Something that I've found as of lately, and I've been using a lot more, is something called Furnished Finder. Furnished Finder is a secondary site. It's a little bit more seasonal as opposed to Airbnb, which is your short-term rental. It's kind of like a hotel. You check in today, check out tomorrow, or in 2 days. The seasonal rentals, the Furnished Finder rentals, are people checking in for about 3 or 4 months. So you have a little bit more time to not have to worry about paying the associated costs when it comes to cleaning, paying as many times going online, logging in to pay the taxes and the fees associated with the Airbnb accounts. You'll know that when you have a Furnished Finder account, what's great about it is that you have a lot less money to pay out to Furnished Finder as opposed to Airbnb, who wants a really nice chunk of your money. Furnished Finder doesn't request as much money from you up front. And you just don't have to worry about as much turnover. So when you qualify your people, imagine only qualifying 3 people for the course of 6 months, as opposed to qualify 30 people for the course of 1 month, right? Or even more than that, depending on where your property is and how many days you're going to have your property up and available. So I also want you guys to consider a typical long-term rental. That's your standard 1-year lease that you have where you pay to the landlord and you just have a regular rental income that you get off of that. Now, a lot of people have been saying, you know, Airbnb is the way or Furnished Finder is the way. That's not necessarily the case. I do think there's a lot to be said about peace of mind. And one of the things that you get with a long-term tenant is you get a lot of peace of mind knowing that you only have to worry about that check payment every month. The water, the electricity paid by the tenant. All you have to do is just collect that check every single month. Now, you are still responsible in case like a toilet breaks or the AC goes out because you are the homeowner. But I can tell you that from the peace of mind standpoint, you'll get a lot of benefit when it comes to long-term tenants. Now, I will say this also because I do want to bring this up as a caveat. I'm not sponsored by Airbnb. I'm not sponsored by Furnish Finder, and there's no sponsorship, of course, for long-term tenants. I'm just trying to give you guys some of the information that I found beneficial to me and has helped me in my real estate career. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure you guys like it and subscribe to the channel to get more content just like this. If you haven't already, turn on that bell notification so anytime a goodie drops, you're the first one to know about it. So until next time, catch you in the next video.